A federal judge is temporarily blocking the Trump administration's attempt to end the 2020 census count a month early. The temporary restraining order requires the government to stop scaling back counting efforts until at least next Thursday. That is when there will be another hearing on whether the Census Bureau can wrap up its process ahead of schedule. Before the pandemic, census data collection was scheduled to end mid-August, but that deadline was extended until Halloween because of the new challenges of in-person contact. Despite the ruling, work to wind down the count is already underway, according to court filings. The associate director of the census says the agency has already started firing some temporary employees. I want to bring in Thomas Wolfe from the Brennan Center for Justice. He's co-counsel representing the plaintiffs against the Trump administration in this case. Welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for being with us. Where does this case stand heading into next week's hearing, and how much is riding on this ruling?
Thanks for having me. Your intro to the session, I think, set things up perfectly. The judge in our case has entered a temporary restraining order, which is basically an order to the Census Bureau to stop winding down its operations. In other words, to stop the process for ending data collection out in the field. When I say data collection out in the field, what I mean mainly at this point is the enumerators that are going door to door throughout the country, knocking on doors to find people who have yet to respond to the census and make sure that their information is recorded accurately. That order will remain in place, as you noted, until this coming Thursday when we have a hearing for longer lasting relief.
So why does the Trump administration want to end the counting earlier, despite complications driven by the pandemic? What's the reason they're giving?
So the administration announced its plan to rush the census to a close on August 3rd in a press release. The press release is very short on details, and among the details that are missing are the exact reasons why the Bureau has suddenly decided to shrink 8.5 months worth of work into about 4.5 months of work, even as the coronavirus pandemic is raging. So we don't really know the answer. However, the timing of this decision on August 3rd suggests that the real reason for the rush is not to ensure the quality of the count, which is the constitutional responsibility that the government has here, but instead to make sure that President Trump has an opportunity to act on an order that he released on July 21st, calling for all undocumented people to be excluded from the count that's used to divvy up seats in Congress.
So to that point, who exactly is impacted most by an undercounted census? And, is the country on the path to complete it properly?
We're certainly not on the path right now to complete the census properly. One of the reasons that we filed our lawsuit on behalf of the National Urban League, along with our allies in the space, including the Lawyers Committee and the law firm Latham & Watkins, is because this plan to rush the census to a close is going to lead to massive undercounts of communities around the country, but specifically Black, Latino, and Native American communities, particularly Native American communities living on reservation. These groups are all supposed to be counted in large part in the NEOFU process. NEOFU is basically just the technical term, the kind of census geek term for door-to-door enumeration, door knocking. That door knocking period is all about making sure that groups that generally under-respond to the first phase of the census, through the mail, online, or on the phone, actually have a chance to be counted.
Crucial work of the census. All right. Well, Thomas Wolfe from the Brennan Center, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.